You know, headlines about disasters can seem so simple. A tanker overturns, it explodes, people die. But the story of the Suleja tanker explosion, well, it's about so much more than just an accident. It's really about a deadly choice.
So let's just ask the question straight up. When you see a leaking fuel tanker, is it danger or is it an opportunity? On the surface, the answer feels obvious, right? It's a ticking time bomb. But what happens when the value of that fuel, for the people right there on the ground, seems to outweigh the risk? That question is really at the very heart of this tragedy.
And look, this isn't some theoretical question. This is a split-second decision people have to make with absolutely devastating consequences. And for those on the ground in Suleja, the answer they came to was tragically clear.
To really understand how this happened, we've got to zoom in on the flashpoint, a specific stretch of road in Suleja that, in an instant, became the scene of a catastrophe.
Okay, so our story takes place near the city of Suleja in Niger State, Nigeria. Just a routine day on a busy road that was about to turn into something horrific.
So it all started with something that, unfortunately, isn't that uncommon. A tanker carrying petrol overturned. It's an accident that happens on roads all over the world, but it's what happened after the crash that made this incident so uniquely deadly.
The human cost was just staggering. Over 100 people lost their lives. And that's not just a statistic, you know? That represents an unimaginable loss for an entire community.
And it didn't end there. Beyond those who were killed, dozens more were left with terrible injuries, severe burns, adding this whole other layer of suffering to the tragedy. The impact just rippled out far beyond that initial blast.
So, this gets us to the most crucial point. Why? Why were so many people so close to a crashed fuel tanker? And this brings us to a difficult but absolutely essential part of the story, what's known as the fuel gathering phenomenon.
I mean, think about it. An overturned tanker is dangerous, for sure, but it shouldn't result in a casualty count this high on its own. So what was it that drew such a large crowd directly into the zone of extreme danger?
And here it is, the heartbreaking answer, taken right from the reports. The victims weren't just bystanders who happened to be in the wrong place. They were actively collecting the spilled petrol from that tanker. They were in the middle of the danger zone because they saw an opportunity.
This practice actually has a name. It's called fuel scooping. And this definition is so important. It's not just about taking something for free. It's an incredibly high-risk activity, but it's often born from deep, deep economic need. When fuel is a precious commodity, a spill can look like a lifeline, not a threat.
You can almost see it unfold. It's a predictable and just terrifying chain reaction. First, the spill. That creates the opportunity. Second, the gathering. This brings a crowd of people into close contact with all that volatile fuel. And then third, the ignition. That's all it takes. One single spark from scraping metal, a running engine, even a cell phone, and the whole thing goes up.
So what do we learn from this? What's the larger lesson we can pull from the ashes of the Suleja tragedy? Let's zoom out a bit for the tragic takeaway.
It really just boils down to this lethal formula. You've got three ingredients. 1, the leaking fuel itself creating a highly flammable environment. 2, a source of ignition, which is almost always present at a crash site. And 3, the crucial one, human proximity, driven by that perceived opportunity of free fuel. When you combine those three things, disaster is pretty much inevitable. And this is the core of it all, right? This isn't a story about people being reckless just for the fun of it. It's a story about how economic desperation can fundamentally change how a person calculates risk. The chance to get something so valuable can completely overshadow even the most obvious and immediate dangers.
So we end with this question, just something to think about. The price on the pump, that's one thing. But when economic conditions get so bad that people are willing to risk their lives scooping fuel off the pavement, it forces you to ask, what is the true human cost of this essential resource?